Awesome. So, Christian, thanks for jumping on. I know you had a great experience with the Awake Improve course, and I wanted to ask you more about it.
Yeah.
So, first off, can you share with me, and whoever's watching, what,
Mm.
where were you before you did the course, right? So, what was going on in your
Mm.
life internally, externally?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So where I was, I had just gotten right before that, I had just been laid off and I was unemployed for a few months for the first time in my career. And then I had just gotten a job just out of desperation, another sales job. And I was just really unhappy with it. It just wasn't meeting my values weren't aligned with it. It was a big time struggle with me just to get up to go to work every day. And so that was so I had hit a really kind of like a big depression in my life, right? It's just like I wasn't making good money. I was kind of stuck. I felt stuck because I wasn't really getting other interviews, and I just kind of like felt really kind of stuck in my life. And so you and I had spoken, and you'd spoken to me about the course a little bit, and you had spoken to me about like, and I my first thoughts too when you start talking about the course, like, oh, cool, he'll help me with my resume, my cover letter. That's what I need, right? That's what I need to get a job. That's what's getting in my way. And
Yeah,
Socrates.
the cat's gonna come drive.
And so really though, when I first kind of got logged in, playful.
Yeah.
When I first kind of logged into your course though, I felt really called to start with, like, I was excited for the external work, the resume, cover letter, but I felt really called to start with the internal work, right? And so that's where I was right at that time. I was just super at a low point, not a place I wasn't happy with, values weren't aligned, and boom, it kind of enters Sean.
Was there a rock bottom moment for you?
So yes, yes. So a rock bottom moment is a really big highlight here for me is my why in sales. Like I love being in sales. My why for being in sales is I personally want to be 1% better every day, and I want to make the world 1% better every day, whether that be some kind of way, right? I want to find a way to make the world better. And the reason why I'm in sales is I see that being in sales as being a great way to do that. My first customer, I met him in person, super nice guy, small time business owner at this other job. And I give him my cell phone. I always give my cell phone number out to my customers, everything like that, because they have questions, even though that's not my job description. And he shoots me a text. He's like, "Hey, Christian, I'm getting all these charges." And I was like, super taken back. And because this service was supposed to be, like he wasn't supposed to be getting charged, right? And so I felt like I was in a place where I was selling something I didn't believe. I put someone that I had gotten to have faith in me, and I felt like I betrayed them because my company was taking money out, and I was sitting there and I was just like, wow, like way to take away something that's so special. He's like, your first customer is always going to be special. And it kind of just robbed me of that's where I allowed it to rob me of that special relationship, because the dude's business is actually one of my favorite restaurants to go to. And it's, yeah, so that was a rock bottom for me.
Yeah, I can see how that would create some inner conflict, right? Ethical
Mhm.
dilemma there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you said when you got into the course, you started with the internal journey. So tell me
Mhm.
about that and your experience there.
Absolutely. So I just always assumed that, you know, I was in a place of life where I was always chasing external things in order to bring internal peace and joy. I always thought what was going to make me happy was not in here, it was out there. And that's was kind of like created a chase mentality for me. And I didn't really, but every single time I sat, and that's also why I was always in my free time, always drinking, always going out, always getting into trouble. And this time in my life, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do those things. And I was sitting there, I was still feeling like that internal conflict. And so I was like, okay, I'm stuck at this job, and I see that portion of your coursework, right? And so that's where it just kind of really just kind of jumped out at me, and I felt like I needed to finish that before I did anything else, right? And it just really highlighted for me that, like, immediately when I started doing the internal work, and I started being thankful for my job and finding things to improve upon it, right? And like change my mindset for everything. I ended up becoming one of the top reps in the entire company out of over 200 something reps, and ended up having a successful career, short time career there. And so even though I wasn't happy there, I changed so much just from this internal, and it was what, and by internal I would say just like it really highlighted just like the balance for everything, right? And the big thing that really jumps out to me is like all the chemicals in your brain. And so, for example, like I was always incredibly imbalanced. I've always been incredibly imbalanced. Like it's always been, work out a bunch and then I'm not getting fulfilled just from this one thing in my life. And so I give up on that for a little bit. Or relationship wise, that's why if I get in a relationship, I'm just like, oh, so into this person. But then when it like falls apart, because I make that my highlight, everything like that. So I started balancing, my social part of my brain, my exercise, my goal setting, my tasks, everything like that. And it just brought me so much inner peace and brought me so much joy throughout my days, where I wasn't needing to go get a drink with my friends. I wasn't needing to go do these things. In fact, it started bleeding over into my personal life of I ended up turning into the designated driver for all my friends. And because I was having a blast with life, not drinking anymore. And everyone else was still out having a great time drinking, but I didn't need it anymore. And it was just such a special place to be, and is.
Cool, cool. Well, that's wonderful transformation to hear.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing.
Yeah. So you got a lot out of the internal work, and then at some point you turned your attention to the external.
Yes, absolutely. And so the external work is like, of course, changing up the format for my resume, for my cover letter, everything along those lines, kind of like how to conduct myself in interview process. And because it was really funny. I always been proud of like my accomplishments in my every job I've had. And I always thought that was enough to go into an interview, right? And so I would also always just go into these interviews and I would seem desperate because I would just be like, hey, I'm so good because I did these things. Like, pay attention to me. Right. And I was always felt like I had something to prove. And so a lot of the external work really taught me to kind of like sit there, pace myself, fix my tone, and just kind of let things, which also led also into the internal work as well, is like instead of chasing everything, let things be attracted to me. And
Mhm.
so just knowing this, coming in with confidence, really was the biggest thing for the external work, with everything and being all buttoned up.
So you're saying the internal work helped you gain the confidence, and then the external work helped you express it in a way that it would be received.
Exactly correct. Exactly. So the internal gave me all the confidence, everything like that, and the external helped me articulate that in a professional manner in order to where this this current company that I just accepted an offer for, they were originally wanting to lowball me for this offer, wanted me to start in a different position, like to train, and that they were like, and I told them no, right? I was like, no, confidently and everything like that. And so this new executive ends up interviewing me about a couple of weeks later, last week, and he gives me a 10K jump on top of it to apologize, gives me a car allowance, gives me a cell phone, just gives me an expense account, and says, instead of the training position, I want you to start in this position. By the way, I expect you to be my top earner in the entire company next year. So like, this is why I'm doing these things. And just my first week, I've identified X amount of unrealized potential that our company should be making right now. And you're the perfect person to get it. So it, it was really kind of speaking out to like, they took me a lot more seriously because I figured out how to articulate myself and present myself more confidently.
Cool. So if you compare your new job to your old
Mm.
job, both in terms of compensation and in terms of non-monetary value, what's the
Mm.
comparison look like?
Absolutely. So my the compensation wise is it's about 15-20 over the just base, but then the commission is
20,000.
yes. Commission, yeah, yeah. Commission is it's nothing even. Okay, just give you. Do you want me to give you like the actual numbers for stuff?
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
okay. Because so for my last job, the product was $299. I basically got a $100 per thing I sold,
Mhm.
right? And now I'm coming in, and this company is saying like, Christian, like we're expecting you to have these $100,000 deals, and more, like minimum $100,000 deals, and I get 10% of that. And so, and that's just of net new business. That's not including all of the current customers I'm gonna be working with, and I get a percent of the profit I add. And so really they're looking at, from I was making, sub six figure with my last role, everything like that, to looking like I could be pushing 300 to 500K with this next role, with all these different deals and everything like that, which is, a very exciting concept to really think about. It's yes. So that's what they're kind of expecting, right? So like, for example, the new executive came in and he was telling me, he's like, I identified $150 million worth of opportunities that are not being touched by the current people because they don't want to like go outside their comfort zone. Like, I want someone to be a go-getter. And he said, you're him. And so that's kind of like where I'm getting these numbers from. And that's what they're saying. And from a place of like non-monetary wise, right, is it was, even though I changed my mindset on my last job, and I was still finding things to be grateful for, because there's always something to be grateful for. I ended up, it was still hard, right? I still found it very difficult to speak to people to try to sell them stuff because I didn't know if they're going to get charged or not. And to me, like, I can't do that, right? Like, a really big example here that kind of comes to my mind is, I'm the type of salesman that's very much so consultative, not pushy. And so I'll be on these phone calls with these people, and pretty quickly I'll be able to know if I'll be able to get them like to close or not. And my manager at the time, he would jump in on the phone calls over the headset and be like, he tried to take over the call by telling me what to say. And the things he would be saying would just be completely ignoring the person, just completely just like a dog basically barking at someone that's trying to get you to.
Sucks.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was just like so miserable, right? And this guy just didn't have he was a middle school teacher before this. Like, he didn't have the credentials to be anyone's boss in this kind of environment. And so going from that to going from a product I didn't trust anymore to a boss that didn't trust me to I did enjoy my team there. They were good people, but to a team that, like, they're still at different parts of their life though, to, and now where I'm being taken on into this role where this company, by the way, I didn't mention this already, is like they're going to be putting me into their executive training program because I'm going to be the youngest guy in the company, and they want to put me in the training program so I can take over their sales organization down the road. Like, they have big expansion plans for the company, moving from West Coast to East Coast. And so it's like, from the last job not having really a career path to here having like my dream career path, right? It's like I've always wanted to lead my own sales organization, to my new boss just calling me saying, like, Christian, like, I'm not going to be working with you on deals because, like, I trust you unless you specifically ask me, or if the deal's over X amount, because then that just looks good to have this executive with you. And so it's like all really exciting stuff to them. Like, another really really fun example of just like how different the cultures is, right, is this other job. I show up an hour late one day because there was an 2 18 wheelers flip over on Austin highway from Bastrop to Austin, and this traffic was standstill. It looked like somebody died, and like I couldn't get there. I called my boss immediately when it looks like I'm not getting there. I'm like, okay, it's not look like I'm getting there. And then I end up getting there to work late. End up getting a write up and threatened to be fired because I'm late to work. To this new role of them saying, like, okay, Chris, like, yeah, these are going to be this outside sales role. We want you to go visit customers. We want you to be this and that. Like, and as we completely trust you, right? Just come in for training. And then, like, we want you to go see the customers, right? It's not really like, we're not going to micromanage you
Yeah, they're
to the
looking
complete.
based on outcomes rather than
Yeah,
like enforce regulations.
exactly. Right. He's like, they have this really cool saying of like, they hire to retire, right, at this new company, right? Because like they hire for the human resource. Is like, so like, for this, because they got an offer and everything like that, like they have complete faith in me and they trust me. And so that's coming to a really special place now of just like me just feeling like I don't have to constantly sit there and prove myself or feel like I'm under a microscope. Well, also another great thing is, like, before I took this job offer, is I looked at them online, and they're the number one rated company in the country for what they do. And what that means is like all their customers only have good things to say about them. And I really wanted this to be a big thing for this next job. And so I was asking because all the executives wanted to interview me separately, right? So they could have their own individual kind of like thoughts about me, right? And come to it later. And so like I asked them each and every single one of them, right? About like, okay, what is it? What makes you different, right? And just their absolute care for people, just like shown through every single one of these executives. Their priority is not to sit there and be like, oh, I screwed this person over, so I charged them 27 extra $1,000 on this deal just because I could. And it's like, no, like they don't do stuff like that. It's like they will absolutely have competitive pricing, everything like that, and they have the absolute best customer service in the industry. And I feel very proud being able to put my name next to something like that.
Cool, man. That sounds awesome. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. So
very exciting.
if somebody's, watching this and they're on the edge about whether or not this course is going to benefit them, what would you say to that person?
Oh man, that I would definitely say it's. So if someone asked me if someone's on the edge about wanting to take this course, right, and already they're saying that not just me but all the other countless people that you've worked with and the amazing results which you'll also highlight in the course. If that's not what's
Well,
pushing.
they may not have seen all of this. They may just be seeing this and maybe one other video, and they're just on the sales page for the first time. So don't.
Okay. Okay, for sure, for sure. I would say what I would ask them what would be the thing that's holding them back from what they truly want, right? Because there were so many things that I found in the internal sector of this that really kind of just showed that I was just getting in my own way of everything. Because everything that you could ever want is so easily attainable, and it doesn't have to be that's me down the road. It's like this is me now. And this has been the single greatest decision I've made in my professional career, and one of the greatest decisions in my adult life, taking this class. And I am forever grateful for you to allow me to partake in it.
I'm flattered to hear that. I'm almost tearing up. That hits me, man. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your time and your experience. If you're interested in learning more about the course that Christian took and seeing if it might be a fit for you, then head over to www.oculusinstitute.com/awaken-prelude. Again, that's www.oculusinstitute.com/awaken-prelude. I'll see you on the other side.